Okay, so welcome everybody. Really great to see folks joining. Today is, some people call it Valentine's Day, some people call it Single Awareness Day, and some people call it Love Positive Women's Holiday, and I'm gonna go with that one today because I think everybody here loves women living with HIV, and that's every day of the year, not just today, but extra special today. Lots of love and hugs and kisses for everybody. So thank you all for joining us. We have a fantastic panel. I'm Jenny Smith-Camejo. I am the Communications Director for Positive Women's Network, for folks who don't know me. And I'm really excited to be here with all of you today to celebrate Love Positive Women Day and to talk about dating with HIV, sex and intimacy, living with HIV, self-love with HIV. We've got the most amazing panel and really glad everyone could join us, sorry. And so this is our PWN Care Sister Circle, which is a new project that we are starting this year. And yeah, really excited that everybody's here. I'm gonna give our panelists a chance to introduce themselves in just 1 second. But real quick, wanted to let folks know, sort of housekeeping type stuff. This is going to be a lively conversation with the panelists, and we're also inviting everybody who's here to participate. And there are a couple of ways you can participate. You should feel free to, if you're on Zoom, you should feel free to use the chat box to talk to each other, to talk to panelists. But if you have specific questions that you would like the panelists to answer, then I would ask you all to put those in the Q&A box, because that way they won't get lost in the chat box, and we can make sure that we answer those questions. Same goes if there's a comment that you, or an experience you'd like to share that you would like for one of the moderators to read out loud, please put it in the Q&A box. And if you are joining us on Facebook Live, you can type questions into the comments thread on that Facebook Live post, and we will do our best to answer those questions as well. So those are the different ways that you can participate. And so yeah, we definitely want questions from folks. So what we're gonna do now, I'm gonna let our amazing panelists introduce themselves, and then we are going to watch PWN Care's Dating with HIV, which is about 12 minutes, and it features 3 of the amazing panelists we have here, plus a couple of other folks who weren't able to join today. And then we will get right into the conversation. We'll be asking the panelists questions. You all can ask the panelists questions. It's just gonna be a lively conversation between everyone involved. So thank you all for being here. So yeah, let's go ahead, and first I'm going to ask our other moderators to introduce themselves. So we have Ebony and Tiami, if you all would like to quickly introduce yourselves.
Sure. Thank you, Jenny. My name is Tiami Luckett. She, her, hers. I'm based in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I am the PWN Communications and Training Assistant. And I've also been living with HIV since September of 2012.
Hey everybody, I am Ebony Turk. I am the PWN National Field Organizer, she, her, hers. I am based out of Dallas, Texas, currently in Birmingham, Alabama, and been living with HIV for 19 years, living, loving, and doing all the great things. Glad to be here with you.
Thank you so much. And then our panelists can introduce themselves. I think we said in order by alphabetical order by last name. Everyone's equally important, but we got to do some kind of order. So I think that makes Olive first, if you can introduce yourself, Olive. And you're on mute.
Hi everyone, I'm Olive. I'm from Jamaica, and I've been positive for 28 years. Love my work, serving other women.
Awesome, thank you. And then Thandi is on the phone. She was having a little trouble with getting her video conference to join. So Thandi, can you introduce yourself?
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Thandi. I'm from Concord, California. Right now I'm based out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and I have been living with the virus since 2015. I'm a member of PWN, also a spokeswoman, and a really HIV advocate, and I've been starting to write about my journeys in my blog.
Awesome, thank you. I've seen that and shared it, and I hope other folks
Thank
check it out
you.
as well. Cool, thanks. Tiffany. Can't hear you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Now, yes.
Okay, yay. Hi, my name is Tiffany Marrero, at least for now, until I figure it all out. I'm based out of, for now, Florida. A lot of my background has just been really internet and social media based and youth based. I'm really big on sex liberation work, RJ work, and just making sure that Black and brown women especially get uplifted in our pleasures. I love the idea of love positive women because we deserve lots of orgasms and O's and looking cute and centering ourselves. So I'm excited to be able to center Black women living with HIV, especially queer women, and all of us, to be able to take back our sexualities outside of what we typically would give ourselves. So thank you for having me. Yeah.
Thank you for being here. Cool, and then Bre?
Bre Rivera, she, her pronouns. I am based in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I am a board member of the Positive Women's Network, and I'm also a program fellow at the Groundswell Fund of the Black Trans Fund.
And Ashley?
Hi, I'm Ashley Slye. I'm with the National Network to End Domestic Violence. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and NNEDV is based out of Washington, D.C., but I work from Charleston, South Carolina. And I've actually worked closely with PWN for almost 10 years now on our Positively Safe project. So I'm so excited to be here today.
Great, thank you. And who have I not, who hasn't gone yet? I'm sorry, got so many people here. Is that everybody? I think it is. Okay, cool. I haven't left anyone out, right? Everyone has introduced themselves? Yes, I believe so. Okay, cool.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Cool. And I again, Jenny Smith Camejo, she, her, hers, and I'm in Miami and communications director for Positive Women's Network USA. So cool. So without further ado, we're going to get started. Tiami is going to talk real briefly about the video that we're about to watch.
Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, so the video that we're about to watch is Romance After Diagnosis, and how it came to be about is we went to our communications actions team and asked them, you know, like, what do they wish that they could have done when they were newly diagnosed, and, you know, what they would have talked about with other women living with HIV. And so one of the things that came up was dating and HIV. So our next step was to reach out to our members, several of whom are actually on this call, and they graciously offered their stories and to be video taken in doing so. And so what we're about to see is the finished project of those interviews.
Awesome, thank you. Cool, and you're gonna see the three of the women who are panelists here, you're gonna see them in the video. So let's go ahead and get this started. Let me pull it up. And just a reminder, if you're not actively speaking, just for our panelists, just to keep yourselves on mute, just to avoid any background noise or static. And now I am going to share my screen. And let's do this. Oh, okay, wait, just kidding. I make this mistake every time. I forget that I have to check a box to share the sound. Sorry about that. Let's try this again. Okay, should be working now. Sorry, just a second now. It's okay. Sorry, just a second. I'm getting. Did you all hear that? Okay, I think it's gonna work. So please, panelists, since I can't see the chat box right now, when the video starts, if you don't hear any sound, please come off mute and let me know, because it's giving me a weird message. I just want to make sure my technology is actually working. Do you all hear sound? Yeah, hold on one
I
second.
do.
Yes.
Now than it was.
I can, well, you turned it off. It was going.
It just went out.
Yeah, it went out. It was there though.
Yeah, that was because it was coming through. Okay, that's the problem. Sorry, folks. Don't you love technology? Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Has worked the last few times I did it, but sometimes it just decides it's not going to cooperate. Let's try it again. Okay. I'm going to go back to the beginning. And again, panelists, come off mute and let me know if you do not hear sound.
How is dating different now than it was before I contracted HIV? Not being so free with yourself anymore. Kind of step back a little bit, you know, wondering if you should tell this person or that person. I ended up married though to a man that was negative, that didn't have an issue with me being diagnosed, because when I met him, he was delivering food to AIDS patients.
Yeah, so dating in itself is already really complicated, right, to navigate for anyone with a positive or negative status or whatnot. And what's helped me is that I'm able to, be open about my status. I know not everyone can do that because of safety. There's no perfect way to date while positive. Everyone does it differently. When I did want to disclose to a partner who I really liked, who I ended up dating for a few years, a mutual friend of ours disclosed to him before I was able to disclose. And that was really hard. It was my first time like experiencing that. And so we talked like right after that happened, and he was completely fine about it. He actually like said that his grandfather was living with HIV, and they don't talk about it in the family, but he's had some kind of involvement around it, right?
I think if I was born negative, I think I would be honestly a part of the sexual revolution. Like through puberty, just kind of like avoided it the best way I could, right? Because it wasn't like, don't have sex. Like I knew that if I dated, I kissed, it could lead to other stuff. And so the responsibility I took on was that, oh, I have to make sure that nothing else happens, right? And all the responsibility of a 17-year-old boy or girl, whatever I chose to do and identify as queer, was taken away. And it was all on me. So I didn't do it for the longest time. And I only became sexually active when I was 25, and I'm 26.
I always thought that my HIV status would be the most complicated thing to disclose to intimate partners. As a woman of trans experience, I think that was more so the issue with folks. Dating was interesting. Finding out my HIV status and getting into care was one of those things that empowered me to look differently at relationships. So I would definitely say that my relationships before were a lot less meaningful and eventful.
I have a set of principles for myself and a set of principles I look for in a partner. I would like to meet someone like I can actually be friends with. And actually, because before I would just be sleeping with people and just be sleeping with him and that, just because I would just be following my impulses. And impulses are great, but my impulses went left and right, and wherever I was, there I go. Now I will use a little bit more wisdom. So I guess it's better now than never.
We had been like 6 months into a relationship, and
And I was like, well, you know, as someone living with HIV, and he was like, what? And I remember like spiraling and like really thinking that this really great relationship that I had been in for the last 6 months could possibly be over because he didn't understand this really important part of my life. And I was like, oh my God, I thought you knew I had HIV. It's like, no, we hadn't been intimate at this point. And I think that was, for me, I think that was the saving grace for the relationship. He's like, it's fine. I'm like, no, what do you mean it's fine? He's like, I mean, I don't care. Like, and so that's when we started to have the deeper conversation about how like HIV affected his life before he knew this, knew my status. It's like a really intense 15-minute conversation. And I think for me, that was the moment where I realized that this was the person that I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with. And it just really helped me like trust him with a lot of like the baggage that I've been carrying, not just as a person with HIV, but also as a woman of trans experience.
I live with this deep visceral idea that I'm going to be automatically rejected. Because of that fear, I've learned that, you know, I put these certain expectations on people to expect rejection, and that's not fair to them, but it's also not fair to myself. But I think the incidents that didn't go well was like I disclosed right before where we were in the midst of having sex, and then that partner kind of, you know, retracted immediately and was like, whoa, you know, and treated me differently. And it hurt. It really did. And I had to do some self-work over that. But I feel like I have to be honest, because if this might go anywhere, I have to be honest.
I haven't had a bad issue, a bad issue telling someone I was diagnosed with HIV in the 21 years that I've been living with HIV. Not one person. They've all went well. But now that I'm older and I was divorced, and I was like, I have to do this all over again. I remember just one time though, that I told the gentleman, we were dating, but we were just going to the movies, and then at lunch, he would call and we'd meet each other at the restaurant and we'd eat. And I said, I have to tell this man I'm diagnosed with HIV. It took me like a couple of weeks, but I ended up telling him, and he cried. He cried because his sister had died from AIDS. We didn't go any further with the relationship, but that was okay. We stayed friends and we emailed each other after he moved away. But that was the only, I don't even think it was a bad experience though. So that was the only one where someone says, no, I can't do this.
I was educated at the age of 7. That's when I was told about my diagnosis. I never had any weird reactions when I was a kid. But when you get older, it gets a little bit more complicated. They didn't have any language around it or any education. It was like, they ultimately thought it was like, oh my God, I'm exposed to like a death sentence and all these other things, which we know that's not true. But yeah, I've been in like serious situations where people threatened taking me to court. That's happened. Nowadays, I'm open about my status, which is great, because I think it helps eliminates any of those worries. And so that's been helpful for me, is that it's like written everywhere. I've had a lot more positives than negatives.
For me, because I'm so already out on my status, it was like we Instagrammed it, right? I was like, oh, with my boo, like, so like there's a face. In the back of my mind, it's fun. I'm a millennial. I'm utilizing that, but I'm also acknowledging legally that if he ever came out and was upset and went to Broward Sheriff's Office in Florida, you know, I'm covering myself. That's how I work. You know, the like quiet, intimate thing doesn't seem to really work. And if that's something some people like, I don't. Then I think that's where the contract would come in. What can I do to make it as fun, as sexy, as sultry as I can, by also keeping myself safe, taking myself out of the criminalization system, you know, as a Black girl in the South. It's my attempt to show that, you know, I'm trying to disclose, I am disclosing for sure, and this person knows for sure, and they know what they're getting themselves into in the event, you know, it blows out.
undetectable and transmittable. It's beautiful. Goodness, it's beautiful because just knowing that you can date and be in a relationship and don't have to worry about transmitting HIV to anybody, it's beautiful.
I'm super excited about U equals U. It's like just adding another tool to the toolbox, right? That someone can achieve, an undetectable viral load. There's no risk of transmission. That's huge. A lot of people are not aware of that, and so we have to do our part in, educating the public about it.
I've always been undetectable, so that was never like a thing that I like struggled with. But I think it's really important that people living with HIV are really taking the charge and making sure that people have all the correct information about the virus and like the way in which it's transmitted.
I literally began having sex in the beginning when U equals U was finally getting accepted. And there was hashtag undetectable pussy, undetectable whore, undetectable penis, right? And it's like a hashtag, and I write it on all of my social media hangers, right? And people are like, why'd you make that? It's like, it's just a way to spice it up. So for me, for safe sex is really knowledge. It's not so much condoms only and lubricant. It's like adding that into my toolbox of the responsibility of safe sex, quote unquote, goes for both parties. We physically talked about our boundaries, consent, stuff that we were okay and not okay with. And it really helped me to remind myself that it takes two to tango, right?
Finding out my HIV status like really helped hone into like those things like what do I want in like life and like relationships, and it just helped me like focus.
Like I had no idea like who to ask about this. It was only when I reached out and went to support groups, then I got a range of answers. I also had to learn how to think of myself in a different way. I had to really work on my self-esteem first. And I continue to do that every day.
You don't have to beg. You don't have to claw at a person and just to get them to see you. Don't do it. Educate once, give them the facts once. Give them time to think and process a little bit if they need it. But after 30 minutes, I guess, or whatever it is, keep it moving.
I just see a lot of people who are not really putting themselves first and taking care of themselves, and trying to be in these really, really intense relationships. Dating is complicated regardless to whether we're living with HIV or not. And I think it's really up to us to really do the work that we need to do internally to make sure that we're in a healthy space to date.
I think it's my attitude. To be honest with you, I really think it's my attitude. That's why I haven't had any negative rejection. I really feel that's why. And even if I did, it wouldn't bother me anyway.
I've always heard people say that is when they feel better about themselves as someone's living with HIV, it almost shines, it is able to spread to other people. And so if we, see that positive reflection, other people will see that positive reflection as well.
All right. Give a hand to our our amazing women in the video. And I see Masonia is back. I know she got disconnected a little while ago. That's why I was a little bit confused. I was like, I know we have another panelist. Where did she go? So Masonia, if you want to jump on and introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi, yes. So my name is Masonia Traylor, and I have been living with HIV for 9 years, almost 10 years. I'll be going into my 10th year this year. I have birthed an HIV negative baby in 2011. So my daughter, she'll be 9 years old this year. And I am representing the Well Project around HIV/AIDS and serodiscordant couples. I've been dating someone for about 2 years now, so who happens to be HIV negative, and we are excited to be able to keep him that way because you equals you.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you. Cool. So to get the conversation started, I first wanted to give the mic to the women who were in the video if you all want to share any reflections. That video was shot almost 2 years ago, so I know life has happened since then. So if there's anything you'd be willing to share with folks, please do so. Anyone?
I'll start. So can you say, can you ask the question again?
Basically,
so
just any reflections on the video or any updates, anything that's happened since then, and just anything you'd like to share sort of related to experiences or other ones since then.
I just want to add on about not clawing after disclosure. Like, I think I love that going into 2020, I really want to challenge us women to disclose and do what we have to do, but then make sure that our pleasure and our leisure is number one. So like, you do your due diligence by educating as much as you can, put a period on it. Like, don't then let's focus on your pleasure and on your wants, because Google was amazing, right? There's apps and there's all types of stuff. You can kind of give like the quick, here's HIV, here's how you get it, here's how you're fine, and then make sure you're centering. Don't feel like you have to sit there and wait for someone to kind of, I don't know, and like, be very, very selfish with your wants and your needs and everything, because that's what keeps your T cells going. Mind you, orgasms help the T cells. They do. Okay, I'm done.
Awesome, thank you. Thandi or Bre?
I would just like to, a lot has changed since we did that video. I know for me, one of the things that video just reminded me of just changed. Like, my hair is gone. I married my husband, my partner at the time. Just to like embrace change, and just reminded me that some of those messages still ring true today, and some of them have evolved a little bit. And I really agree with what Tiffany said about like being mindful of our disclosure. Me and my husband had a really interesting conversation a couple weeks ago. We were going to visit family. And he was like, yeah, when you're around my family, why don't you ever like tell them what you do? I'm like, yeah, I'm an advocate. They know that I'm trans, but I think it's really weird to have those conversations with folks who are not in your relationship about HIV statuses, because so many people make assumptions. So it's just that thing that reminded me that even though I'm like out and open and there's articles about me and I don't mind talking about my status, there's still times where I feel very, very protective of it and the people around me.
Awesome, thanks. Thandi? You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, now I can.
Oh, hey. It worked. My reflection of that is that looking at it, usually it's hard for me to look at stuff I've done in the past, especially around doing this work. I still have I'm working through it, a type of stigma, about just looking back at stuff I've done. But I'm glad I looked at that again. it helped me realize is how far I've come and how far I still have to go. And also made me realize, because now I have a partner, I've met someone, and I've done the work to do so. But it's just a self-reflection, and I feel honored that I had the opportunity to do it. So yeah.
Awesome, thanks. Thank you for sharing. Cool. Ebony and Tiami are my co-moderators, so I'd love for you all to jump in and start asking some questions.
Sure. I just want to say thank you guys for sharing your updates. We have a marriage. Somebody's gotten married. Somebody has had is in a relationship now. So thanks for sharing those updates. I know things don't always go, like that. I'm still single. When y'all filmed that video, I was single, and I'm still single. But it's okay, because I'm having fun, because Tiffany has trained me to have fun. Thanks, Tiff. Are we going to
you are welcome, master.
Thank you. Go ahead, Tiami, you might want to say something before I start.
Okay. Thank you all again, to all of the stars from the video. Thank you so much for joining. I have a question for Tiffany. And the reason for my question is because you were born with HIV. That's not my experience, right? So a lot of us can talk about what dating has been like since our HIV diagnosis, but you started dating with an HIV diagnosis. So if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit about like what that was like?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes? No? Okay. That's a really great question. And I want to hold space for other folks, maybe you're watching this, who are also born verticals out there in the world, we use that term. I know for me, I don't quite remember when I was told I have HIV, a very chaotic and not so bright upbringing. I was raised up in kind of foster care, and then I was adopted. So disclosure was kind of my own thing. And sex is kind of something I had to figure out on my own, because I think I was raised in a very public health model. Like, to me, my lifespan was very public health. It was very research based. It was very, I always joked I was like the original Black AIDS, because it really was. Like, it was really research, really safety. I think maybe 25 after I realized that I can take control of my body more, I started to explore my sexuality. I think for me, getting approval to fuck was really important. I needed my physicians, my nurses to be like, can I do this? Can I have orgies? Can I get oral when I'm 18, 19? Can I give it? Am I gonna? And unfortunately, we know that a general public health knowledge on sex is usually really stigmatizing and not so nice, right? For any non-HIV negative folk or HIV negative teenager. Hope that's right language. So for me, it was like I had to stop asking permission and just jump. I really did. And because no one is going to tell a 17-year-old or no one is going to be able to say, well, here's how you have sex. Like, here's the meds. Go have sex. The whole point you take the meds is to stay healthy. You have a womb, you want to grow it, have family. There was no one to really okay me. You got to kind of just do it yourself, and you got to kind of just throw stuff out in there. I will say that when I really, really wanted to like have a good sex life, and I really wanted to have, I was lucky enough that I became part of the Youth Initiative program through NMAC, and I got kind of, I was able to meet a lot of other women with HIV who were kind of able to pour into me and to kind of safeguard me and to kind of be able to go like, no, you can go out, you can explore yourself. Something I guess you would have done when I was like 16, 17, I'm kind of regaining now because I'm an adult and I feel like I finally got to the point where I don't have to kind of wait for the okay or the science, or I'm not running off of a very public health, well, you got to use condoms each time and before. So like, I just realized now, like, no matter if I have a viral load or if I'm undetectable, I still deserve orgasms, right? So And I'm just now realizing that, right? No matter what stage of my development, I'm still deserving of everything else that somebody not living with HIV, as long as I have, deserves. It just took a deep look at the history of HIV, first of all, where we've came, the fighters who came before me, and for me to be like, y'all did not sacrifice your lives, nor did you die on the streets, nor did you do what you all did for all of us, I think, especially young people, for us to just hide behind a campaign slogan, right? I think y'all, the folks who are not here, the folks who really have their bodies are on the DC lawn from all years ago, I think a lot of them want us to do this liberation work, which is why I love that a lot of leather folks, BDSM folks are also living, who are living with HIV, are doing a lot of activism too, and kind of bringing in more of that, like, this is why we have meds, y'all, so we can have families and we can, you know, fuck each other or not, or we can discover what we like or whatever it is, right? But unfortunately, like, there was no, like, sex ed for, unfortunately, what we did have was very much like, okay, well, you equals you, but use a condom, or you equals you, but like, do you want to cuddle? Or you equals you, but like, you don't really want to like do that freaky shit. And I just feel like, unfortunately, there's no one to give me the okay. And I think I feel like I've ended up someone who's been opening those doors for other more liberators to come through and kind of push this, like, this is why you take your meds. This is why you're staying healthy, to enjoy your life and enjoy your sex and enjoy your partners. So like, remind yourself of that, and that your sex life is not a public health campaign, nor is it a box to be checked, nor is it something that the white gaze, I believe, in can ever be able to take away. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Ebony, you can go ahead with your question.
Thanks, Tiff. I don't know if you just said something, T, but I know we have some questions in the question and answer box, and we're gonna get to those. I'm gonna actually ask this one question because it's about the video, and I see one about young ladies. So I want to go ahead and ask those while we're talking about it, and then afterwards, I wanted to talk to. I know for me being dating and being positive, one of the things that has helped me is the resources that's available to positive women to share with people who aren't in the community. So I want to talk to a few of the ladies who are from a few of the agencies to see what they have going on and think about it. But first I'm going to ask these questions and then I'll shoot it over to them. So one question: in the video, one of the speakers said that she disclosed right at the moment she was about to engage in sexual contact. Fear? Did you have fear? Did that ever play a part or teach you a valuable lesson for the future? That seems like a dangerous situation, and I don't want to encourage that for anyone. Do you ever anticipate violence? I'm not sure who mentioned that, but I think it was Thandi. Okay. We can't hear you, Thandi. I don't know. It doesn't look like you're on mute, but.
Oh, now
we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I mentioned it in my part of the video. So what happened was I had sex with this person before several times when I was negative. And then after the diagnosis, we so happened to be in the same town and we met up and we continued the same pattern. Well, before we continued the same pattern, because we had a friendship kind of, and I wasn't thinking, there's always a bit of fear when, admitting or disclosing. It's always, for me it is. So with this person, I felt safe enough to know that he wasn't going to be, quick to anger, or, he seemed like a level-headed guy. But what I wasn't sure of is whether he would take it well. It wasn't the best to admit right then and there. I admit it that made for a very awkward situation. And I've learned that it's better to have a separate talk before ending up in the bedroom doing the boom boom, because those situations ended up better for me. With that guy, it was. I mean, I just got diagnosed then, and I there was a bit of guilt there to say, yo, before we do this, this is what I have. And luckily, for me, it didn't end up in an action of violence. I was rejected, but I wouldn't encourage anyone else to put themselves in that situation, especially if they don't have to. I would say have the discussion before and away from the bedroom, maybe in a neutral place, in a public place, especially if you don't know the individual.
Thank you, Thandi. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody want to comment on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say this is a good opportunity to just remind folks that just because we're activists and we're honest and open and we do these panels and different type of speaking engagement doesn't mean that it always translates to folks. So just wanting, Tiffany really reminded me of just protecting ourselves and protecting other folks and being clear about having those conversations in a setting that like folks can be clear and ask questions, because we would hate to think that because folks see what we're doing in the outside world that they actually like know how that stuff is affecting us, and not making those assumptions.
Thank you, Bre. Anybody else have any comments about that?
It's good that she was not, she didn't get a violent response. She could have died in the process out of his reaction of fear. And so for other persons who would be thinking or contemplating how they disclose, they would realize that it's more likely that they should have the conversation before, and the longer you take to have the conversation, it's the harder it gets and more complicated. So if you're going to tick boxes, make it be one of the first boxes you tick whenever you're going to have a conversation after the person identify you as a person. Because you have to identify that I am a person before HIV, so that you're not reaching somebody, hi, I am Mary and I'm HIV positive. Because then they see HIV and not you, this beautiful person with all the feelings and desires and love to give like any other person. And then the trigger of it is that you don't know what the other person is dealing with. So maybe if, particularly for people of color, who socialization and introduction to sex from slavery and whatever else is in our DNA, we do the act before we have the conversation. And the act is the conversation in many instances. So maybe if we meet someone, the discussion would be about, or both of us need to know what our status is. You know, so how about the both of us going to get a test? And, you know, instead of automatically assuming that I need to tell them something, because they may not be telling you something that you need to know as well. So that would also help you to see if this relationship is going somewhere. It's the both of us who are going to get this information at the same time, because we're both going into it blind. And then when we both get our results, then we can have the conversation, which means most of the places that provide these tests should now be looking at how they do couples testing in a particular way that works for people who desire to do it in that way, or promote it as such. It shouldn't be the burden of this one person who needs to tell someone what they need to know.
Thank you, Olive. I love that. Remind people that you're a person first. I absolutely love that. And since we are talking about, and we're not going to stay on the, oh, go ahead, Masonia.
It's okay.
That's something to say.
I dropped something and I was gonna say something, but then I dropped something in the background. I'm sorry. I was thinking about two things that I totally have forgotten about because I have progressed so far in how I disclose and why I disclose, and then being in a long-term committed relationship, I kind of have a different way of approaching different things now. However, I realized I had to reflect on when was the first time that I had unprotected sex after, or just sex in general after my diagnosis. And when I think about it, I was diagnosed positive and pregnant within 2 weeks. So I had already been having unprotected sex with my daughter's father. However, when I think about Thandi's story, in her experience, my daughter's father was not interested in getting tested. It took him over a year to go get tested. And we got in arguments about it. I don't believe in physical challenges when I'm dealing with people, when I'm angry. So we didn't have that problem or that challenge, but there was a lot of verbal abuse, a lot of emotional abuse. But it was me being angry that he would not get tested. And I didn't understand, like, why not? I'm telling you that I have this, but you still want to have sex with me. You still want to have unprotected sex with me. And I'm pregnant, so my hormones are even higher. So I definitely want to have more sex than usual. And I got to a point where I started using sex as a tool for negotiation, meaning I just was like, I'm not having sex with you anymore until you go get tested. That didn't work because I still gave in. I didn't get to an undetectable viral load until my 6th, 7th month of pregnancy. And then it went back up by the time I was 8 months and I wasn't undetectable anymore. And then after I gave birth, I made a strong decision to not have sex unless he would go get tested. And that was a challenge because the guy that I was dating, her father, he was just terrified. So for some reason, he was still okay with having sex with me. So I got confused and frustrated because I still want to know, where did I get this? I had only been dating my daughter's father for 6 months. And the guy that I was dating prior to him, I had been with him for 4 years. So neither one of them wanted to get tested. So I understand, getting tested together. I was getting tested. That's how I found out. But there's something that just still inside of me said, I still deserve to have this pleasurable moment. But I can decide that, you know what, I would feel bad if I don't understand this whole thing about getting to undetectable, and I don't understand this medicine, but I am going to use a condom each time because I'm going to feel terrible if you come back to me and say you have it, and I don't know if you got it from me or if I got it from you. So I know it can be a tricky situation, but it just depends on the dynamics of the relationship with the person that you're dealing with is what I'm considering. And since then, my daughter's father said he has gotten tested and that it is negative, but I still don't believe it. But that's just my personal opinion.
While you're talking, Masonia, you want to tell us about a lot of the resources the Well Project has to help women navigate these types of experiences?
Absolutely. The Well Project just dropped a fact sheet this week for not only National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, but mainly for Valentine's Day. Myself and another member of PWN, Winona, we came up with, the fact that we're struggling navigating this whole serodifferent or serodiscordant relationship, meaning where one person is positive and the other person is negative. How do you navigate that? And the fears or the challenges behind that. And so within that fact sheet, it goes over a plethora of things from when to disclose, the risk. It talks about, thank you for posting a fact sheet. It talks about some of the pros and cons of disclosure. by choosing to do it, you know, as soon as you see a person, you let them know. Or if you decide to wait, the pros and cons of that. And these facts have come from surveying women who are HIV positive like ourselves, including ourselves, matter of fact. So these aren't just research materials coming from out over yonder. It's coming specifically from women living with HIV and their experiences. So that fact sheet is available now on this webinar. Thank you. And you can also visit the wellproject.org to have access to those materials. And if you need to, I can also help get those fact sheets to you so that you can utilize them or give them to other places that you think would need them. So thank you for that, Ebony.
Thanks, Masonia. I love the Well Project's fact sheets, especially disclosure ones and ones talking about HIV. I actually use fact sheets and a lot of these websites, reputable websites, to educate my partners when I am in a new relationship or dating. I give it to them and ask them, you know, give them the option to go and look to see and learn more, and to see if they want to move ahead with me. So I appreciate fact sheets. I love them. So thank you. So if you guys want to wellproject.org, the links are in the chat box if you want them. So there's this other thing that I was hearing about really quickly. And since we have Ashley, I believe Ashley on here about like violence and I think I just heard Masonia say like she used her sex as a bargaining tool. A lot of times we do a lot of that living with HIV. We do a lot of trying to keep ourselves safe, trying to use things to make sure we can get what we want, because sometimes in relationships, when you're positive, people use that against you, or they use that to hold power over you. And I'm very, very quick. I'm glad I learned that, because men do try to do that or will try to do that. And if you're aware of it, then you can catch it beforehand. So Ashley, can you talk a little bit about what you do, where you are?
Sure. So the National Network to End Domestic Violence has the Positively Safe Project, which looks at the intersection of domestic violence and HIV. And this project is actually, it'll be 10 years in April that we've been doing some work on this. And really, we just noticed that at the time, there wasn't a lot of resources available out there. We were hearing from survivors living with HIV that they just didn't know how to navigate the conversation when they were going in for help. A lot of times they would go to emergency shelter and not feel comfortable there for whatever reason. They didn't feel like they could have this conversation with the advocate. So we wanted to create some tools that help advocates really navigate this conversation, help them feel more comfortable talking about HIV with survivors living with HIV, as well as anyone that needs to receive testing and resources. So, you know, we do trainings and work across the country with local programs to kind of help them explore their policies as well, because there's still a lot of, I think someone kind of mentioned the stigma and just, I think, misunderstanding around HIV. So helping people, you know, come to terms with those, make sure their policies are in line with kind of our beliefs around trauma-informed care, as well as, you know, allowing survivors to make the decisions that are best for them. I think I've heard from so many of you all that each situation is very different, and how you disclose is going to be different as well. So when it comes to like working with advocates, we always explain, like, you have to let the survivor lead the conversation. You know, what that looks like in disclosing their status, that's kind of up to them. But, you know, you can help them, provide them tools, you know, even just talk it through. If they're like, I'm not really sure how this conversation is going to go, just being able to be open to sitting with them and listening, and, you know, just helping them in that space. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. And lastly, right before I get back to the Q&A box, one of my favorite projects, Love Positive Women, people have gotten cards. Olive, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Okay, sure. Well, about 7 years ago or six, Jessica Whitfred from Canada, she said, we should love positive women. Let's do something about it and so on. And then she defined what we could do to love ourselves. And I said, yeah, we should do some cards and share it with women at the clinic because it seems like there are a lot of lonely people who are not finding themselves because women tend to do what we call lock shop when they get their diagnosis. They feel they're not lovable. So it takes a time for them to get back into the flow of things, especially if they weren't in a relationship. So we made cards and took it to our treatment site, and we did a survey of the women who got the cards, and they loved it. And it was one way that we used to reach out to them for them to join groups that we were mobilizing. This year we are doing cards again. And it's also therapy for those who come in because they have to make the cards, like a handmade card that they take to their clinic or treatment site to share with others. This year we are doing butterflies. So this is the card this year.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
It has a thought inside, you know, saying you're loved, and the women have to go and share it and talk to the person about how they can be loved again. And where we are at, you equal you is not that understood. So some people are still struggling with it. Some are just at, okay, I need to get suppressed so that I can manage. Disclosure is the biggest hurdle. I mean, it's more than the pills, because normally it was the pills that people didn't want to take. So the disclosure is the major issue. And then because introduction, like Tiffany spoke about, is whether or not you need to ask someone, how do you go about it? How do you get back into being a normal person with desire of sex, family, a house, husband, wife? So they had to go through that because many persons were feeling guilty. Some were concerned about how they tell someone who could reject them. So there are a number of things that I think that we still need to be doing. And we believe that giving someone a card or just sharing a thought, now that you have WhatsApp and other social media ways of speaking to people privately, that we could be, you know, sending people thoughts and so on. And then there are those who don't have that access. So we still go to the sites and try to reach out to them. Some of the caregivers are a bit concerned that, you know, how do you give a card to someone? You're immediately telling them that you know their status. And you're saying, it's a treatment site. The illusion that you have that people don't know why you go to a treatment site needs to go. Because you go there because you want to be cared. And this is one way of reaching people. So we have been using it, and other groups we have advertised it, promoted it across the globe. There are many spaces where we are doing love positive things. I like when the visual arts people send us cards that we share as well to show them that there are people all over the world that are dealing with HIV and loving themselves so that they can be lovable for others as well. Because the thing is, whatever you want from a person, that's what they want from you and even more. So if you want to be loved, other people want to be loved. If you would have liked someone to disclose to you before sex, they would have liked you to do the same. It's not easy. And I think we can do more to have those kind of support on the ground for people who may not have access to reading, online things, because of where they are, it's limited, or they're afraid to open things on their phone, which may be shared or looked at by their lovers or their family, who then say, so why are you interested in HIV? Why are you looking? So, you know, you need more spaces, and the spaces where you go for treatment could be one of that place where you get to have that conversation with someone who is willing to speak to you about it.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Tiffany, you have something to say?
Hi. I did, you know. I just want to do another resource, thebody.com. I love that a lot of stories of just exploration is also posted on there, so check it out. And if you have something that's on your heart that you want to submit to, reach out to Kenyon Farr, who's the senior editor there. I just have a little tip for anybody who's watching this. I have a really huge, big racial justice lens in my fucking experience and my sex experience. So for Black girls out there living with HIV specifically, feel free to look for other Black girls in the journey that you're with. I love Masonia's story. I love New stories. I love all of our stories, Ebony. But what I honestly think, I am blessed by the blood of Black women. And I'll say that again, like, I am blessed by the blood of Black women who I'm able to fuck, love, and all this stuff because, like, so many Black women living with HIV guide me and hold my hand. I think there's discussions about disclosure and, why so many of us, our folks living with HIV, this is an inner communal also kind of thing that we can really start pushing as Black women, specifically living with HIV. I don't know if I have to say it, but that does include trans. So Black women, right? Like, really look for other stories of Black women and then see how, if you want to, so for me, I'm in the family planning stage. So Black women with children mean everything to me because I'm on that kind of goal. I'm going in that. So I need to make sure that the messages that I'm listening to are not overly whitewashed. It's not overly like tainted with kind of other messaging, that we're not centering HIV negative folks, that we're not centering we're centering ourselves. So please feel greedy in your Blackness, Black girls. Just center yourself to find other stories of other Black girls, Black women, Black families, Black leaders, whatever it is that are on this kind of journey that you are on living with HIV, and harness that. And don't be afraid to go, where's my crew? Where's my tribe? Where are the girls who look like me that are going through the same thing? Because I guarantee you, if you think that you're going through a relationship issue with your man, he doesn't want to get tested, and you know what? Who else is going through it? Some girls in Georgia and some girls in Florida, and just like Black girls, please reach out, look for other Black girls, and don't feel like you get left behind or that you're not in this conversation too, because you are.
Thank you, Tiffany. Yes to all of that. I love it. I'm gonna swing back to my other moderator, Tiami, because one of my problems, the reason why I don't have a man is not because of HIV, is because I got a takeover spirit. And I be taking stuff over. Tiami, go ahead and do that.
Okay. Okay.
Come on, let him use you.
Thank you all again. And thank you, Masonia, for bringing truth to light with the 0 different couples of mixed status. But I want to switch gears because for me, once I got over, accepting that I'm living with HIV, my next thought was, I don't want to date anyone who's negative, right? So I felt like, I had to steer away from the disclosure conversation. And I did learn, that men living with HIV are just as big as assholes as those who are not. And so,
yeah, still men, honey.
My question to everyone on the panel is: have you had an experience dating other people who are living with HIV? And if so, how has it been different than dating someone who is not living with HIV?
So this is Masonia, and I can speak to that. So, and I guess it'll probably be very brief, because every person that, like, initially I was like, I thought that I could only date people who were HIV positive at first, like just right off the bat, like that just gonna be my easy go-to, or like nobody told me that's what I had to do. I don't know where that thought came from, but I felt like maybe it was just a safe place, a safe way of thinking. But those individuals who were positive, they were some of the worst people, some of the worst human beings I've ever met, unfortunately. And you all rarely ever hear me speak like that. And it makes me sad. I didn't expect that I would get, a little choked up about it, tell me. But each time that I would talk to someone and disclose, and they, happen to be positive as well, their words were so it was just derogatory words that were given right off rip, oh, I want to fuck you and things like that. It just always equated right to sex immediately. And it made me question, like, is this what my life has come to? Like, no, this just because I have HIV doesn't make you entitled to be in my space. Not entitled to date me, but entitled to be in my space. And then I started really gaining my self-worth around that thought process, because I never heard anyone say, you are not HIV. And I don't remember telling myself, maybe I did inadvertently, subconsciously, that, I was telling that to myself. I was 23 at the time. I'm 33 now. And I just remember feeling really just grossed out and just bad. And not all of them looked like they were ill. Some of them took very great care of themselves. A lot of them were much older. And then the ones that were younger, even on social media, they were the ones that I blocked the most. They're so rude, so mean. And then I have met quite a few individuals, male and female, who have reached out to date me. I do identify as a heterosexual woman, where they were kind but nervous and scared. But because I'm so public about my status, it made it easier for me to sift through who could be in my space. And unfortunately, it happened to be people who were HIV negative than it was someone that was positive, because they were afraid that I would inadvertently out them, or that they would pull out more of their own insecurities around their own status. So that's been my experience. It has not been the best, but those who do reach out to me at this point, I let them know I'm in a relationship right now, but if they're interested in dating others, I'll keep an eye out for them. I'll send them a link or a website. But because of how I look at HIV and AIDS now, I look at it like, you're a human being, you deserve a valuable person regardless of their status. And that's what I try my best to teach and push for people to, grab that, hold on to that perspective.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's exactly where I had to come to in my journey with dating, right? Because of the same thing. The guys that I dated who were positive felt like I had to just accept everything that they threw out at me, and thereby diminishing my self-worth. And when I realized that I could do bad all by myself, and I don't need you to add to it, it made me stronger. It really did make me stronger. And being a public figure, I don't have to have that conversation a lot, and there was a question that was in the chat box that I think we talked to. As a trans woman living with HIV, it is scarier to disclose being trans than it is about my HIV status. Because, people are willing to do the research. And that's just been my personal experience. Anyone who's been interested in dating me, reading whatever article that came out about me, and I talked about You Equals You, they went and researched that before we even had the conversation, and I knew that they were interested, right? So, but it was a lot different when I was dating people who were living with HIV. They felt like they were entitled to my body. I had no bodily autonomy. They felt like, they could go and come all times of the night, that everything fell on me. And no. And some of them on social media were just rude to the point where I had to block them and start a campaign for other women living with HIV because they're predatory. So that's, I mean, it's the truth. I really, really am so appreciative for everybody on this webinar right now for being so honest and so raw. And, this is something that is actually going to help those who are not quite where we are yet, either in advocacy or disclosing or acceptance of an HIV status. So, Jenny, did you want to jump in? Yes, go ahead, Thandi.
Well, from my experience, because I just mostly was dating people who were negative, and then I have encountered those creeps that were positive, I blocked them too. But the partner I'm with now, he's positive as well, and I've had a great experience with him. I have my own autonomy. He respects my boundaries that I set, and he loves me for who I am. So with my partner now, who's positive now, we remind each other about when we take our medications and all that. It's been pretty good for me. But I do understand that there will always be those creeps out there, and it is what it is. But for me, with a positive partner I have now, it's been an asset.
Thanks, Thandi. I just wanted to say really quickly that that made me, somebody said, who was that? Masonia said, they have been creeps and they have been mean, and that made me laugh. They are the most unhealthiest people, and it made me laugh uncontrollably, and I feel bad for laughing so hard, but it's because it's been my experience as well, and it just made me totally say I'm not gonna date any of them anymore. Although I still have because I love to help and try to guide people living with HIV. On one hand, I'm convicted because I'm like, I want to help you get healthy because clearly you're not healthy, and on the other hand, I'm like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. But I just date who I just want to say in dating, self-worth is very important. How do you feel about yourself? Because how you feel about yourself is how you're going to go out into the world and date and decide who you're going to be with and who you're going to let be into your sacred space. HIV is another level of difficulty to deal with, but once you put it out there, and if they accept it, then you have to go on with the whole other relationship stuff about, your emotional wellness there, and things like that. So I believe self-worth is one of the most important things when it comes to whomever you're dating, whether it's a positive person or a negative person. Although we really got down on negative men, positive men, I'm sure there are healthy ones out there. We all know them. I feel like we got down on them so bad. But
well, so I wanted to speak to that part. So I know that I was just sharing my personal experience, right? So I haven't had many positive experiences at all, right? However, I have met some of the most beautiful couples, all right, that have the healthiest relationships, that where both people are living with an HIV and or an AIDS diagnosis, right? So it's not for me to just speak and say, okay, all men who are living with HIV and AIDS don't deserve love, or all women who, are dating other women living with HIV and AIDS, where both. It's not that. It just happens to be so sad that oftentimes the experience is on the negative side, where it's being just based on your self-worth being measured by someone else. And oftentimes, whether you're positive or negative, you're looking for someone to accept you. Oftentimes when people aren't, especially older individuals, when they get older, they're just like, oh, if I'm dating somebody, they gotta accept me for who I am and everything that come with me. And so when you have that added layer of an HIV or AIDS diagnosis, it does challenge what you thought you knew about your self-worth. It makes you go in a little stronger and harder about it. But when I see men who are positive, that are interested in dating other women, not me, they happen to be some beautiful people as well. So I did want to speak to that. There are some very beautiful, positive people out there that are worth and valuable, and when it comes to dating.
And
can I just really quick too? Sorry.
Go ahead, Bre.
Well, I'm just really into that relationship.
Tiffany.
Oh, sorry.
We gotta
just really quick. On the polyamory, GNC, non-binary folk sector on this side of the world too. There's also a lot of folks with HIV that do some pretty kinky, fetishy, awesome, bubbly, BDSM and then some stuff too. So like, there's the, I want to have monogamy and go into that, but there's also like a kind of like a evolving Black Renaissance sort of a mountaintop that we're going on. So like, there's also folks, men, folks that don't have any sort of title, women, whatever, all of us who are really stripping these labels of like, oh, I'm heterosexual, or I'm man, or I'm patriarchy, like getting rid of all of these sorts of like layers, and then just getting to the good stuff too. So like, also don't be afraid to throw all of that out, and then just look to how you can really, like, let's say like you like to get tied up, or maybe you want to get some more, like, or maybe you just want to date somebody completely different, or maybe you might meet somebody. Like I think in my recent dating world, I've met a lot of folks who are non-gender binary folks, and who are kinky and fetishy folks, and folks in just all different walks of life who have been thriving with HIV in this really unique way too. So give light and give voice to the liberation work that is starting to come up, thanks to meds and thanks to these kind of panels that are also important. So thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Bre.
No problem. I just wanted to follow up and just say that like the stigma that cis men and men who are attracted to trans folks are also is really high. And so I feel like that there's not we haven't created a safe enough space for folks to be able to talk through those issues. And so I just wanted to name that. And then I also just wanted to remind folks that like, as women, we are conditioned to like fix and take care of, and that is not our responsibility. And so I just wanted to, that self-worth piece is very important. But I think for a lot of us, and it's not even just with romantic partners, I think it's just with people in general, that we are so giving that we lose ourselves. And I just wanted to remind folks that like, we don't have to do that. And we can put that energy into ourselves to make ourselves better.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bre. Great.
Well,
second,
if I may, I started off by working with groups, and I would notice that any man that came to the group that was not gay or did not say he was gay was more likely to become like the rooster on a farm, in that he would be the one that most of the women would end up feeling safe with. So I didn't think that I don't share anything, period. So I wouldn't have had a relationship. And then they didn't understand that I was not gay because I wasn't sharing. And that became difficult because yes, they were rude. As I worked with the groups, I realized that most persons were suffering from like the post-trauma of getting their diagnosis and not getting the support they needed to work through it. So they were relating based on what they heard anecdotally, particularly if they didn't read a lot. And so they depended on the oral transfer of knowledge. And because of that, a lot of them were having problems, they work in relationship. So like Ivani, I'm single because I refuse to have you think you're doing me a favor. I'm sorry. I am my own person. I am not going to make you think you are doing me a favor. Then we have women who they stay in relationships because they are threatened. If you leave, I'll disclose your status and so on. Not going there with you, not going there with you. And we have to have the conversation with other women and men as to how they learn to love themselves, how they learn to accept that they are still human with the same needs, desires, and rights that says, I deserve better and I deserve to treat somebody else better. I think that's more of the work that we need to do now. But there's so much struggle sometimes that people don't understand that these struggles and distractions does not allow us to do some of that work to make other people feel love for themselves and can love other people.
Thanks, Olive. So we only have a few minutes left, and I have one last question for whomever wants to chime in. People, please keep chiming in on the chat box. You guys are having some great thoughts over there. This is the last question. So, recently we started the Sister Circle on Facebook, and we have a lot of women living with HIV who are newly diagnosed. If you could give them some bit of advice, words of encouragement, words of caution, whatever it is you feel like you want to give, what would you give? What do you think they should know? Anybody can start first. Thandi, I see you off mute, so go ahead.
Yay! I would like to tell them that it's not the end. You can still have a life that's worth living and enjoying. And, you know, you can be you. And, you know, it takes time. It's a mourning process that you go through. But once you're through it, you're better for it at the end. And so I would like to say, welcome to the Sister Circle. Hold your head up and come in to support. We're all here to support you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that there is more of us than there are of them, meaning the people that, you know, hate us, don't want us to have things. And so just reminding folks that, like, even though we might not be in the same city, same place, that like being a part of this sister circle means that you have support at any given point in time. And just encouraging folks to like reach out, especially in those moments where it gets the most hardest.
Thanks, Bre. Tiffany, I see you're unmuted. You want to go?
My two biggest, my big thing is center yourself in everything. You do not have to center HIV negative folks in your daily life. And viral load or not, you're still deserving of compassion and you're still deserving of a great time. Take your time. Don't feel like you have to check test and treat is cute on like a paper and stuff, but like take your time. If it doesn't feel right to start, then just wait. But make sure that everything you do, you're centering yourself. And if you're a Black person, you're centering your Blackness, and that you're just reminding yourself like the viral is not everything. Your health is everything, and like trying to make sure that you're good is everything. But regardless of your stage, you deserve orgasm at every single stage that you're at. And I love you.
Anybody go? Who's next? Anybody else want to say something? Masonia?
Yes, I love Tiffany so much. So inspiring, such a firecracker. I would like to say, just as I tell everyone, don't forget to ask yourself, why are you choosing to disclose to this person? You know, definitely use the Well Project's fact sheet. It goes over some of those type of questions, but does this person deserve to know in that moment? You know, why are you telling them right now? You know, just don't forget your why, because your value is not based upon your diagnosis. You know, that is what I would like to leave you with. Just question your value, or not your value, question why is this person valuable enough to your life that you need to disclose to this person.
Thanks, Masonia. I think I see Miss Olive off mute.
I believe that both persons who want to be in a relationship where they are now going to be sharing their body fluids need to know what they're dealing with, and so both persons should want to be where both are finding out what status they have and what they're agreeing to. So disclosure is hard, and a lot of people are in relationships that they have not disclosed 5 and 10 years. And if we are now saying, oh, disclose, it's difficult. So it's how persons are going to understand that they are a person, and they need to be where they feel that they can say to another person that I'm living with. And if you don't feel like you can tell this person, maybe you shouldn't be with them. And so it's hard. Or you can decide that you live your life like that. It's not healthy. And as Tiffany said, you can't center yourself if you're living your life. And honesty to self is the best for you. And then when you're honest with yourself, which you may need help with, so a sister circle or other women who are there can help you with this struggle, then we should go for it. And we should have more love positive women moments, not just during February, but do it at a time when, you know, you have a group that may need to do that. Do some self-care, help other people to learn what self-care is, and self-love. Because a diagnosis of HIV can make people stop loving themselves or think they're unworthy of loving. And so they themselves don't love who they are. and we need that help.
Thank you, Miss Olive. Quickly, I'm gonna read a few comments from the chat box really quick, then I'm gonna give you my word of advice, and then I'm gonna pass it back over to Jenny. So Ashley said, for anyone experiencing domestic violence, there are resources and support for you. Absolutely. You can contact the domestic violence hotline. She left the number in the chat box. I'm gonna say 800-799-7233 in case you're not on the video. You can get plain language legal information. But if you need help, please reach out. You can even reach out to us on Sister Circle and we can connect you there. Anyway, we do understand that some people are experiencing domestic violence situations. And if you are, please reach out. We are really here to help and get you connected. The next comment is from Wahida, and I love this. It says, she has been in circles where they're discussing using the term sharing our status as opposed to the term disclosure, which indicates some type of secretive admission. We've been discussing the power in sharing our status. It is yours to share or not to share. It is yours to share or not to share. Absolutely. Wahida, I love that. I will now start using the term sharing our status and not disclosure, because you are correct. This is my status to share or not to share. So I love that. Thank you so much for putting that in there. Sharing our status as opposed to disclosure. So really quickly, my advice to women living with HIV, newly diagnosed or been diagnosed, and you just haven't gotten out there or got the nerve to get out there and start dating again. So everybody has been really thoughtful, and I'm about to be really like ratchet. No, it's not ratchet. But I just want to say, go ahead. Today is Valentine's Day.
Be ratchet.
Love on yourself.
Be ratchet.
Be ratchet.
Be ratchet.
Love on yourself.
Be ratchet.
Love on your partner. Yes. Love on your partner. If you have a partner.
Try some anal.
Yes, try all of the passionate things. Do what makes you feel good. And this is the serious part. In dating, what I said I've learned is that HIV is not my dating issue. Finding the perfect person for me is my dating issue. And until I do, I date multiple people and I find pleasure where I need to find pleasure. I encourage you to do that. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to find pleasure. Go out, love on yourself, love on your friends, love on your family, love on your partners, love on whoever you feel the need to love on, so you can find pleasure, not only today, but every day. I love you guys. I'm gonna find me some pleasure somewhere today with somebody's son. Now, Jenny, go back. I'm tossing it back to you.
You go, girl.
Love you, Miss Ebony.
You all are amazing, and that's a perfect way to close it out. And the only thing I want to throw in there too is there is nothing wrong with masturbation. I'm just gonna put that out there. And
Oh my God.
Sometimes you can
put out the toys. Yeah, I have gotten to know myself extremely well.
It's totally natural.
We're gonna do a sponsorship next year, guys. And everyone's gonna try some toys, and then we're gonna tell you guys how we like it. You're welcome. Next year.
That'll be the next one. So thank you all so much. Thank you so much to the panelists. There have been some great resources that have been shared. They've been going through the chat box. I understand there are also people on Facebook Live. Those resources are all going to be available on the website, on our website. We will post a link to that on Facebook, and we're going to be sending out an email to everybody who registered for this conversation that'll have those resources in it. So if you were not able to grab those as they went by, please don't worry. They are going to be available for you after this, hopefully by later today. So thank you all so much. Thank you, panelists. You've all been amazing. I think everyone who's been here has really enjoyed the conversation, and I hope everyone goes out and loves on themselves and or whoever it is they want to love on. Enjoy the rest of your day. That's the most important thing.
All right.
Thank you guys so much.
Bye,
Happy
everybody.
Valentine's Day.
Happy
Bye.
Valentine's Day, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Yes,
Bye.
Woo!